The skies had turned crimson. The first wave of alien ships descended upon Earth like a plague, darkening the sun and casting a shadow across the planet. For decades, humanity had watched the stars, hoping for contact, dreaming of the day they would make history by reaching out to the cosmos. But the history they were about to make was not one of peaceful discovery. It was the history of survival, of the species fighting against an unstoppable force, one that was determined to wipe them from existence. The invaders were unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. Tall and imposing, with smooth dark exoskeletons that glistened in the dim light of their ships, the Zelnari had long been a mystery. From the moment they first breached Earth's atmosphere, their cold, calculated precision turned the world's defense systems to rubble. The Zelnari were no mere conquerors. They were a race of perfectionists, engineers, and cold, unfeeling tacticians. They sought to cleanse the galaxy of all who did not meet their standards. And Earth, with its messy, unpredictable nature, had no place in their vision of order. Humanity fought back with everything they had, but every weapon, every tactic, every brilliant defense fell short. The Zelnari were patient, relentless, and brutal in their onslaught. They wiped out cities in hours, burned forests to the ground, and turned oceans into poisonous wastelands. The Earth's leaders met in emergency conferences, but they knew the truth. The Zelnari were too advanced, too powerful. The war was lost before it even began. In the ruins of what was once Chicago, a small group of survivors gathered around a rusted table in the remains of an underground bunker. Commander Elena Rios, leader of the Earth Defense Coalition, paced back and forth, her face etched with worry. The survivors were few, but they were the best of humanity's military, scientists, and strategists. "We can't give up," Elena said, her voice steady despite the weight of failure bearing down on her. "There has to be a way to stop them. We still have resources. We still have hope." Her second-in-command, Major Daniel Clark, shook his head, staring at the tactical map projected in front of them. The map was covered in red, the marker for Zelnari-controlled territories. "They've wiped out our major defense lines. There's nothing left. If we keep fighting, it's only going to get worse," Daniel replied, his voice hollow with exhaustion. Elena stopped pacing and faced him, her eyes blazing with defiance. "We're not giving up, Daniel. Not while I'm still standing." But deep inside, even Elena wasn't sure if their fight was anything more than a dying hope. The truth was sinking in. The war was meant to end Earth, and humanity had no idea how to stop it. As if to mock them, the sound of a distant explosion rattled the bunker, followed by the echoing hum of alien crafts flying overhead. The city was burning. They could hear the screams of their fallen comrades above the thick steel walls, and yet they couldn't escape the feeling that they were being watched by unseen eyes. "What if we—" A voice interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Alan Pierce, a brilliant but eccentric scientist, had been quiet up until now. His glasses were cracked, and his clothes were singed from the constant bombardment. "What if we don't fight them with guns or missiles? What if we fight them with what they can't understand?" Elena raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite herself. "What are you suggesting, Alan?" The scientist's lips twisted into a smile, though it was one born of desperation. "What if we take a page out of their book? They're all about perfection, right? They think they can control everything. But what if we show them something they can't control? Something they don't understand?" There was a pause as the group exchanged wary glances. Daniel was the first to speak. "You're talking about a weapon. But how do we use it against them when we barely have the means to defend ourselves?" Alan straightened up, a spark of madness in his eyes. "Not a weapon. A message. We create something so human, so chaotic, that it will destabilize everything they believe in. I've been working on a project, a prototype. It's not much, but it might be the key. We need to turn the war around." Elena's mind raced. She knew it was a long shot, but what choice did they have? There was no time left. "Do it. Build it. We'll give humanity a new weapon, chaos." The survivors scrambled to make preparations. The countdown had begun, and the last remnants of Earth's defenders were about to make their final stand. But this time, it wouldn't be about sheer force. It would be something far more dangerous, something unpredictable, something human. The underground lab hummed with the faintest whisper of machinery as the survivors worked tirelessly. The makeshift team of engineers, soldiers, and scientists, led by Dr. Alan Pierce, had come together with a singular goal: to create a weapon that the Zelnari could not comprehend. Time was running out. Every minute spent in the lab was another minute the invaders were tightening their grip on Earth. Yet, there was no choice but to press on. Dr. Pierce stood in front of a large, cracked screen, watching as his team assembled the core components of the project. It wasn't much, just a jumble of old parts, hastily scavenged from destroyed satellites and wrecked military outposts. But the core idea was simple: a virus. Not just any virus, Alan muttered to himself. This will be chaos incarnate. The idea had come to him during one of the many long, sleepless nights spent staring at the endless streams of data the Zelnari left in their wake. The invaders were all about control of their technology, control of the galaxy, control over everything they touched. The more Alan studied them, the more he realized something fundamental about their weaknesses. They lacked the one thing that made humanity unique: the ability to adapt unpredictably. So he had devised a way to use the Zelnari's own technology against them, to create an outbreak of chaos within their systems. This virus, though, was not a simple digital infection. It would warp their very understanding of order. It would alter their technology, scramble their weapons, and distort the very fabric of their communications. It would be a wave of entropy in a world governed by order. "Alan, it's ready," came the voice of Major Clark, who had been monitoring the progress. He walked into the lab, his gaze heavy with exhaustion but determined. The team had been working around the clock for days. Their supplies were running low, and the Zelnari were drawing nearer to the bunker with each passing hour. Alan looked up from the screen, his eyes filled with a strange mixture of triumph and fear. "It's not ready until we unleash it. And once we do, there's no turning back." Clark nodded, his face a mask of solemn understanding. "If this works, we'll be giving them a taste of their own medicine. If it doesn't, we'll be dead in the next 10 minutes. They both knew the stakes. No one had ever beaten the Zelnari. No one had ever survived them. This was humanity's final gamble. Meanwhile, on the surface, the Zelnari forces were tightening their noose around the last strongholds of Earth's resistance. The alien ships hovered ominously over what remained of New York, casting massive shadows on the ruined streets. From their vantage point, the invaders could see the remnants of humanity's military forces, desperate, scattered, and losing hope. The Zelnari did not waste time with pleasantries. They had come for one thing only: to erase Earth from existence. Commander Zorax, the leader of the Zelnari invasion, stood on the bridge of his flagship, gazing at the planetary surface below. His angular face, covered in shimmering black plates, betrayed no emotion. The humans were a chaotic, fragile species, no different from the countless others he had eradicated in his long quest for galactic purity. "Prepare the final bombardment," Zorax ordered, his voice cold and clipped. "This planet is a failure. Its inhabitants are unworthy of the galaxy's grand order." His second-in-command, an armored being named Exelon, approached, his form sleek and elegant. "The humans still resist, Commander. There is a pattern emerging from their last communications. They are attempting to fight back in an unexpected way." Zorax's mandibles clicked together in what could almost be interpreted as a sigh. "What does it matter? They are playing with fire. Their resistance will burn out. We will extinguish it, as we always do." Exelon hesitated. "There is something strange, Commander. Their transmissions, they seem to have a randomness to them. It's not like their usual communication. It's almost as if they are trying to break through our systems. They are trying to create disorder." Zorax's eyes narrowed. "Trying to create disorder? How quaint. How primitive." His voice turned darker. "But if they want to play with chaos, they will see what true chaos looks like." The commander turned to his fleet's communications officer. "Increase the frequency of jamming. Ensure their signal is utterly obliterated. No one on this planet shall be allowed to disturb the perfect order we are establishing. But deep inside, a small seed of doubt began to grow. The Zelnari had always prided themselves on control. What if the humans were capable of something different? What if, in their desperation, they had stumbled upon a weapon even the Zelnari couldn't predict? Back in the underground bunker, Elena Rios stood at the front of a room, watching Alan Pierce and his team finalize the virus. The countdown to deployment was only minutes away. Her mind raced, her thoughts filled with doubt and hope in equal measure. Was this truly the key to saving Earth, or would it simply be one more desperate, doomed attempt to stave off the inevitable? Alan approached her, holding a small metallic device in his hand, an encrypted drive containing the virus. "It's time," he said softly, his expression unreadable. "Once I upload this, everything will change. If we're lucky, it will disrupt their systems. If we're not, we've bought ourselves maybe another hour." Elena nodded, steeling herself. She knew the risk they were taking. "Do it." Alan connected the device to the central computer, and the countdown began. The virus was ready. Now the true war, chaos versus order, was about to begin. The moment Alan Pierce pressed the final key, the virus began to spread. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The screens in the underground bunker remained static, the hum of machinery continuing as before. But then a low, vibrating pulse echoed through the room. The lights flickered, and the air itself seemed to thrum with an unnatural energy. The virus was alive, pulsing, spreading, and burrowing into the systems it was meant to corrupt. Outside, in the heart of New York City, the Zelnari forces were tightening their grip. The hum of their advanced ships, which had been a constant since the invasion began, suddenly stuttered. For a fraction of a second, they flickered. Then everything went silent. Zorax, standing on the bridge of his flagship, frowned. The quiet was unsettling. "Report," he snapped. Exelon, standing beside him, turned to the communications officer with mounting concern. The officer worked furiously at the console, tapping into multiple channels, trying to understand the disruption. "We're experiencing interference," the officer said, his voice strained. "Our systems are being compromised. The human signal, He stopped short as his screen flashed violently, his hands instinctively pulling away from the console. "We've lost communication with the fleet. Entire sectors are offline." Zorax's mandibles clicked in fury. "Impossible. This is not the way of the galaxy. Who dares disrupt the perfect order we have established?" In the moments that followed, chaos erupted across the Zelnari fleet. Their advanced systems, which had always operated with flawless precision, now buckled under the pressure of the virus. Ship weapons fired without command, targeting other Zelnari vessels, while their communication systems devolved into maddening static and incoherent chatter. And then came the explosions, first from within their own fleet. Motherships, once the symbols of their technological superiority, began to fall apart from the inside. The Zelnari had no defense against such disorder. This was their Achilles heel, a force they had never accounted for, something they could not control. Back in the bunker, Elena Rios and her team watched in stunned silence as the feeds from the surface flickered to life. Cities that had been darkened by alien weapons were suddenly alive again. Some of the alien ships were spiraling out of control, while others began to fall from the sky, their engines sputtering. The attack on New York had stalled. For the first time since the war began, humanity was seeing victory, real, undeniable victory. "How is this possible?" Elena whispered. "Did we really do it?" Alan stood frozen before the screens, his eyes wide. "It's working. The chaos, it's overwhelming their systems. But we need to keep pushing. If we stop now, their systems will stabilize again." Major Daniel Clark clenched his fists, his face a grim mask of determination. "We can't let up. We push until they break." Elena nodded. "Deploy all remaining assets. We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting for control of our future." On the Zelnari flagship, Zorax's fury had turned to something far more dangerous: fear. His once perfect fleet was in disarray, and the humans were capitalizing on their rare moment of advantage. The commander had never faced anything like this before, something he could neither understand nor predict. Chaos had taken root in his perfectly ordered world, and he couldn't stop it. "We must regain control," Zorax growled. "Activate the Chaos Countermeasure Protocol. If these humans can weaponize disorder, then we'll show them what true control looks like." His officers scrambled to respond, but every command they gave was either delayed or ignored by the failing systems. The countermeasure, an advanced Zelnari defense protocol designed to restore order and suppress external chaos, had been activated. But it too was crumbling. The virus had woven itself so deeply into the Zelnari networks that every attempt to eradicate it only worsened the situation. Zorax's eyes burned with a cold, calculating resolve. Prepare the final solution. We will obliterate this planet. If these humans think they can disrupt the galaxy's natural order, they will learn that no force, no matter how chaotic, can escape retribution. But Elena and her team were already moving forward. While the Zelnari were struggling to regain their footing, humanity's counteroffensive was gaining momentum. The survivors had found their strength not in brute force, but in the very thing the Zelnari could never truly understand: adaptability. Humanity's ability to improvise, to thrive in chaos, had become their weapon. In the wake of the virus's success, the resistance forces began to regroup. The once scattered remnants of the military were now rallying under Elena's leadership. The scientists, engineers, and even the ordinary citizens who had survived the first waves of the Zelnari were now unified in a single goal: take back their planet. The human coalition unleashed everything they had left: hacked Zelnari weapons, repurposed alien technology, and the viral chaos that was still infecting their systems. It was a patchwork of desperation, but it was also something far more dangerous: unpredictability. The Zelnari, in all their cold, perfect order, had underestimated the one thing they could not control. And now, humanity was showing them what true resilience looked like. The war had taken an unexpected turn. Earth had not just survived, it was fighting back. But this was only the beginning. The true test would come when the Zelnari adapted to the chaos, when they turned their overwhelming might on the humans with the full weight of their superior technology. For now, though, humanity had a brief, fleeting moment of triumph. And that was enough. The war had shifted. What was once a one-sided onslaught had now become a battle of attrition, and humanity had been handed an unexpected lifeline. But it was a fragile victory, one that hung in the balance, a tightrope stretched over an abyss. The Zelnari had only begun to feel the sting of chaos, but they were not a race that easily broke under pressure. They were calculating, relentless, and now they were adapting. Deep within the ruins of New York, the resistance was gearing up for a final assault. Their forces had grown in strength, but so had the Zelnari's desperation. Elena Rios stood at the front of a newly formed command center, her eyes glued to the tactical screens as her team gathered around her. They had pushed the Zelnari back, but the invaders weren't finished. Not by a long shot. All right, people, the first phase has been a success. The Zelnari are reeling, and they're getting sloppy. But don't mistake that for weakness. They'll adapt. They always do, Elena said, her voice steady but laced with the weight of hard-earned experience. We've got one chance at this. One final push to cripple them for good. Major Daniel Clark nodded, his expression grim. We've learned a lot over the last few days. The virus hit them hard, but they're working to counter it. They've activated their emergency protocols. If we don't hit them hard enough, fast enough, they'll bounce back. The chaos will stop. We can't let that happen, Alan Pierce said, stepping forward. His voice was tight, the stress of the last few days beginning to show on his face. The virus is still in their system, but they're beginning to develop countermeasures. We need to disrupt their communication hubs one last time. If we can hit them where it hurts, we can keep them off balance long enough to finish this. Elena glanced at the map projected before her. The coordinates pinpointed the Zelnari Command Center, a heavily fortified location deep in what remained of the Central American continent. It was a high-risk target, but it was the heart of their operations. If they took it down, the Zelnari would lose their last remaining grip on Earth. Then that's where we go, Elena said, her decision final. We infiltrate their command center, disable their countermeasures, and push them into full retreat. We don't leave anything behind. This is a fight for the future of humanity. The room fell silent, the weight of the mission settling on each of them. They knew the risks. This wouldn't be a clean operation. It was a desperate last-ditch attempt to seize control. And yet, there was something else in the air, something like hope. It had been a long time since any of them had allowed themselves to feel that. The Zelnari had not been idle. They had spent the last few days recalibrating their forces, reinforcing their ships, and tweaking their countermeasures. Despite the chaos they had suffered, the Zelnari were adapting in ways that no one, not even the humans, had anticipated. They had long understood the nature of order and control. But what they had failed to grasp was the human capacity for surprise. Zorax stood before his council of warlords, his mind whirring with new calculations. The virus had disrupted his fleet, but it had also taught him a valuable lesson. Chaos was something to be harnessed, not feared. It was a force that, when controlled, could be used to crush all opposition. He had seen the power in the unpredictability of the human mind, and now he intended to counter it. Prepare the fleet, Zorax ordered, his voice cold and commanding. We will no longer wait for them to strike. We will make our move now. Let us show them what true order is. He turned to Exelon, his second in command. Their virus has damaged us, but it will not destroy us. We will recalculate, and when we do, we will wipe them out. Exelon's gaze flickered, uncertainty creeping into his demeanor. The humans are unpredictable. Their resistance, their adaptability, has been unlike anything we've faced. What if they manage to hit us again? What if we lose control? Zorax's mandibles clicked in a sharp, measured rhythm. Then we will adapt to their adaptation. We will become a force they cannot hope to understand. We will eliminate chaos with the full might of the Zelnari order. The command was clear. There would be no more hesitation. No more waiting for the humans to strike. The Zelnari would take the initiative. They would push back. Elena's strike force moved quickly and quietly through the dense jungle of Central America, their heavy boots sinking into the soft earth. The trees loomed above them, a constant reminder of the world they were fighting to save. Their target, the heart of the Zelnari operation. If they succeeded, they would cripple the invaders' communication network and disrupt their command structure. All units in position, Elena whispered into her comms device, her voice tight with anticipation. Ready, Commander, Clark replied. We've got a clear path to the facility. We'll have a few minutes before they notice us, but after that. We move fast, Elena interrupted. No room for mistakes. We don't stop until the mission is complete. The team advanced, weapons drawn, eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of the enemy. As they neared the Zelnari facility, the air grew thicker, more oppressive. The facility loomed ahead, its steel walls a silent testament to the invaders' technological superiority. But it wasn't invulnerable, not anymore. Alan Pierce had already begun hacking into the facility's outer defenses, his fingers dancing across a portable console. His eyes flickered with determination. I'm in. We've got access to their comms, their internal systems. I can disable their countermeasures from here. Do it, Elena ordered. Clark, with me. We'll breach the inner chamber. The rest of you, secure the perimeter. The two teams split off, moving with precision. The inner facility was guarded, but not as heavily as they had anticipated. It seemed the Zelnari were still reeling from the chaos virus. For the first time in the war, the invaders had underestimated their opponent. As Elena and Clark reached the command center's entrance, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, a series of screens flickered with data, Zelnari communication channels, military strategies, and attack vectors. Elena's heart raced. This is it, she muttered, pushing forward. But just as she moved to plant the final charges, the ground beneath them shook. The facility's alarms began to blare, red lights flashing as the Zelnari responded. The humans had been discovered. Zorax had anticipated this moment. The final battle had begun. The ground trembled as the Zelnari activated their defenses. Elena and Clark exchanged a look, understanding immediately that they had no time to waste. Their moment of surprise was slipping away. "Get the charges set now," Elena barked, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to disable their systems before they fully react." "Pierce, how much longer?" On the comms, Alan Pierce's voice crackled through. "I'm in their mainframe, but they've started locking down their systems. I've got 10 minutes at most before they close the door completely." 10 minutes it is, Clark said, already moving toward a row of consoles. He planted explosives along the walls, his hands moving with practiced precision. Elena, her heart pounding, did the same on the other side. They could already hear the hum of Zelnari reinforcements heading their way, heavy boots thudding against the floor, weapons powering up. Suddenly, the door to the inner chamber slammed shut with a deafening clang. Elena spun, instinctively reaching for her weapon. A low hiss echoed through the room as a flood of Zelnari soldiers appeared in the corridor, their black, armored exoskeletons gleaming in the dim, red lighting of the facility. "Get ready," Elena shouted. "We hold this position." The soldiers charged, and the air erupted in the sharp sound of weapons fire. Elena and Clark opened fire, the rapid bursts of gunshots sending Zelnari soldiers stumbling backward. But the Zelnari were relentless, their advanced shields absorbing the fire. Even with the Chaos virus still disrupting their systems, they adapted quickly, countering with weapons that fired energy bolts, sending plasma blasts streaking across the room. A loud explosion rang out as one of the Zelnari soldiers unleashed a grenade, sending a shockwave through the chamber. Elena dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the blast. Clark wasn't so lucky. He was thrown against the wall, his body crumpling to the floor with a sickening thud. "Clark!" Elena screamed, crawling toward him, but the pressure of the situation left her no time to help. He was out of action for now, but they couldn't afford to stop. A sudden scream filled the air as one of the resistance soldiers fell to the ground, his body jerking violently before falling still. Zelnari snipers had found their mark, and Elena could hear the whistling sound of another round heading toward her. She rolled behind a column just in time, her breath ragged in her chest. The battle had turned desperate. The Zelnari were pushing back, and the time left to disable their countermeasures was slipping away. "Pierce!" Elena shouted into her comms, panic creeping into her voice for the first time. "I need that code now." "I'm almost there." Alan's voice was strained, cutting in and out. "They're locking me out, but I've found a back door. You've got 5 minutes. Make it happen." Elena gritted through her teeth, peering out from behind her cover and firing at the advancing soldiers. One by one, they fell, but for every soldier they took down, 2 more took their place. Zorax, aboard his flagship, monitored the facility's situation with a cold, detached gaze. His eyes narrowed as he observed the chaos unfolding on his monitors. The humans had shown a surprising level of resilience, but they were still only human. They had no real chance against his perfected race. "Status report." Zorax barked. Exelon, standing nearby, hesitated, watching the cascading series of errors and failures within their systems. "The human virus continues to destabilize our operations, Commander. But we are adapting. We will contain this rebellion." "Contain it." Zorax's voice lashed out, his mandibles clicking in fury. "We eliminate it. Now." He turned to his command officer. "Prepare the planet's final solution. We will cleanse this world of the human disease, once and for all." In the depths of the command center, Elena was on the edge. The battle raged all around her, and the few remaining members of her team fought valiantly to hold the line. But they were outnumbered, and the Zelnari forces were tightening the noose around them. Her pulse was racing. Every second felt like an eternity. "Alan, where are we?" she demanded again, clutching her rifle and watching the door for any signs of movement. She was running out of time. "I'm in," Alan shouted over the comms, his voice full of triumph. I've bypassed their final security protocols. The virus is now inside their core network. You're good to go, Elena. The screens in front of Elena flickered, showing the Zelnari Command Center coming to a halt, their systems frozen for a moment. The soldiers faltered as their communication lines were severed, their weapons misfiring in erratic bursts. Now, Elena shouted to her team, "It's time to finish this." The final set of explosives were armed. Elena activated them, her fingers moving with steady precision, and the charges detonated with a deafening roar. The Zelnari facility erupted into flames, a violent storm of sparks and debris. The shockwaves sent the remaining Zelnari soldiers flying. Elena stumbled, but caught herself, breathing heavily. She looked to the carnage around her, the shattered remnants of the invaders' operation. The facility, once a symbol of their absolute control, now lay in ruins. Back aboard his flagship, Zorax felt the shift in the air as his systems collapsed. The virus was no longer just an irritant. It had become a full-blown infection. His fleet's technology was failing. The control he had so carefully crafted was slipping through his fingers. "No," he screamed, slamming his fist against the console. "This cannot be. No more delays. The final solution must be launched now." But it was already too late. Humanity's resistance had won the battle for the Zelnari's heart. The final explosion reverberated through the jungle, its echoes fading into the stillness that followed. The Zelnari Command Center, a towering fortress of technology and alien precision, had been reduced to rubble. The facility that once represented their unshakable dominance now lay in ruins, its core systems utterly disabled. Humanity's audacity, their unpredictability, had struck at the heart of their conquerors. Elena stood amidst the debris, her breath coming in heavy, uneven gasps. The battle had been brutal, the cost high, but the victory was undeniable. They had done it. The Zelnari had been dealt a blow from which they could not recover. Their control over Earth was broken. The war that was meant to end humanity had, instead, started something far greater. The team, battered and exhausted, regrouped near the ruins. Clark was among them, his injury severe but not fatal. The resistance forces had held the line long enough for the final push to succeed. "Elena," Clark said, his voice a rasp. "We did it. We really did it." Elena looked out over the battlefield. The sounds of distant gunfire had faded. The humans had fought for their world and won, but she knew the war wasn't entirely over. The Zelnari fleet was still out there, circling in orbit, and Zorax had not yet given up. But they had gained something invaluable: time. Time to regroup, to rebuild, to reorganize. "Not yet," Elena replied, her voice calm but resolute. "This was just one battle. The war's not over, but it's shifted in our favor. The Zelnari won't give up, not until Earth is dust. But they're not prepared for what's coming. The next phase is ours." Back in orbit, Zorax fumed with barely contained fury. His perfect order had unraveled, and now the final solution was his only option. The virus had spread faster than he could suppress it, and his fleet had fallen into disarray. But the Zelnari were nothing if not resourceful. They would not let a single setback end their mission. "Commander Zorax," Exelon said, his voice cautious, "perhaps it's time we consider retreat. The humans are growing stronger by the hour. Their resistance has become more coordinated, and the virus has caused far more damage than we anticipated. Our position is untenable." Zorax's mandibles clicked in a rapid, frantic rhythm. "Retreat? No. We will not retreat. We will cleanse this world of their infection. The final solution will show them what true order is." He looked at his fleet commanders, each one standing at attention. "Prepare the final weapon. We will wipe them out. This planet will be ours, one way or another." But as he gave the order to initiate the final solution, a sharp, urgent transmission cut through the noise of his command room. A flickering image of Alan Pierce appeared on the main screen. His eyes filled with an intensity Zorax could almost feel across the stars. "This is Alan Pierce." Alan's voice rang out clearly. "Your invasion ends now. You've had control for long enough, and it's time to leave Earth. Zorax's eyes narrowed. You're delusional, human. You think you can stop me? Alan didn't flinch. Not alone. But you're forgetting something. The virus you tried to control? It's still out there. And we've made sure it's not just embedded in your systems. It's everywhere. The Zelnari fleet, your weapons, your ships, they're all infected. What you're about to unleash, it'll turn against you. Zorax's blood froze. Impossible. Alan smiled, his expression grim. It's already started. The chaos you tried to suppress? It's spreading through your fleet. The virus is already rewiring your systems. And this time, there's no turning back. In the moments that followed, Zorax watched in disbelief as the feedback loop began. His fleet, his final weapon, the great and unstoppable force he had relied on, began to collapse. Their systems malfunctioned, the once unbeatable Zelnari ships turning against each other. Weapons misfired, shields flickered, and the chaos of the virus spread through their ranks, consuming them from within. This cannot be. Zorax screamed. We are the pinnacle of order. We cannot. The transmission cut off. The Zelnari fleet began to fall apart, their once unified force reduced to disarray. Zorax's final weapon, the planet-destroying superlaser designed to obliterate Earth, was disabled, its systems corrupted. His empire, built on flawless precision and total control, had been shattered by the very force they had never considered. Chaos. Back on Earth, the tide had turned. The Zelnari were reeling, their fleets broken, their power structures dismantled. Elena Rios and the resistance forces watched from their command centers as the final remnants of the alien invaders either fled or were taken down in the skies above. Prepare the broadcast, Elena said, turning to her team. We need to send a message to the world. The image of Elena appeared across every major screen on the planet, broadcast worldwide for the first time in months. She stood tall, covered in grime, but resolute, her eyes shining with determination. To the people of Earth, she began, her voice steady and unwavering. This war was never meant to end us. They thought they could break us, make us bend to their will. But humanity is not so easily conquered. We've fought with everything we have, our ingenuity, our resilience, and our unwavering spirit. And we have won. The Zelnari are broken. Earth is free. A ripple of cheering spread across the world. People took to the streets, embracing each other in celebration, not just of survival, but of triumph. They had faced an impossible foe and had overcome them through unity and sheer determination. But this, Elena continued, her expression softening, is only the beginning. The Zelnari are gone, but the scars they've left will remain. Now we rebuild. We don't just restore our cities, we restore our humanity. We learn from this. We adapt. And we rise together. Because Earth has only one future. Ours. The screen cut to black, and then the words flashed across the screen. The new era begins. In the wreckage of the Zelnari flagship, Zorax stood alone in the dark, his hands trembling. His perfect order had been shattered, not by a superior weapon, but by something far more alien than he had ever expected. Human unpredictability. The virus, chaos itself, had undone everything he had built. He was defeated, not just by the humans, but by the very thing he had never understood. As the last remnants of the Zelnari fleet drifted away, Zorax's mind raced with one final thought. They had truly begun a new era. And in that new era, the Zelnari would never reign again. With Earth safe, humanity stood on the threshold of an uncertain future, one filled with both challenges and endless possibilities. The war that was meant to destroy them had instead shaped them into something stronger, something united. The story of Earth's survival was far from over. It was only the beginning of what humanity would become.